Hi, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to Leisrealtalk. Welcome to my live stream. Okay, it's Thursday night, November 10th. We just had our midterm election day 2 days ago on Tuesday, and Chinese leader Xi Jinping donned camouflage and visited the Chinese PLA's. It's called Joint Operations Command Center. He also announced his fourth job title, which we'll discuss in a little bit. The day before, the PLA sent the largest number of military airplanes near Taiwan since the military exercise in the summer during the time when Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan. So is Xi Jinping sending a warning message about the war? And who is his message intended for? Let's take a look. So let me share my screen here. Here we go. All right, so on November 7th, the day before the US election, we saw the largest incursion of PLA warplanes into Taiwan airspace after the CCP's Party Congress. And this is a chart released by Taiwan's military, by Taiwan's defense ministry. Taiwan's military detected 63 Chinese military aircraft and 4 Navy vessels near the island, and about half or 31 of them had either crossed the median line in the Taiwan Strait or have entered the southwest area of Taiwan's airspace. So this chart, the box, the black box is Taiwan's airspace. You see the median line in the Taiwan Strait. And then the chart on the top left, is the type of aircraft, right? You have the fighter jet 11, fighter jet J-16. Those are the Chinese fighter jet models. And then the number of occurrences. So you have 2 and then 24. So they add up to 31. If you can see the chart, let me see if I could make this bigger. Yes. They're color-coded, so you could see the type of aircraft and then the number of aircrafts that have entered Taiwan's air defense zone, right? So they're kind of small, but you get an idea. And the next day, here we go, which was Election day in the US, Xi Jinping donned camouflage and visited the Joint Operations Command Center with his 6 military commission members. So that's the gang of the 7. And then on this day, Xi got a new job title, his 4th. He is now the chief commander of the Joint Operations Command Center of the Military Commission, in addition to being the party secretary, the chairman of the Military Commission, and the president of China. So let's take a close look at the event by first watching a Chinese Central TV's news report. It's about 4 minutes long. It's pretty detailed, and I translated the voiceover as subtitle as banner. So I'll try to add the banner as I play the video. Let me see how this works. So let me see this. Okay, so I'll start play the video with voiceover. Here we go.
下午4时许，习近平来到军委联指中心。
主席同志，军委联指中心正在查备执勤，请指示。执勤指挥员吴新峰。按计划进行。是。
习近平听取了军委联指中心有关情况汇报。 随后，习近平亲切接见军委联指中心官兵代表，向军委联指中心全体指战员致以诚挚问候，并同大家合影留念。 习近平强调，
今天我和军委的一班人到军委联指中心来，就是要亮明新一届军委贯彻落实党的20大精神，全面加强练兵备战的决心和态度。
习近平。
Okay, I'm going to take a pause because then the voiceover for the next 2.5 minutes is kind of long for me to do the subtitle. So I'm going to mute the audio and I'll read my translated voiceover for you because I can't read over that loud voiceover. So I will mute but keep playing the video for you, okay? And I'll read the translation. Okay, so here's the voiceover. Xi Jinping pointed out that the 20th Party Congress made a strategic deployment plan for national defense and military development to build a modern socialist country and promote the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. The whole military should conscientiously implement the requirements of the Party Central Committee and the Central Military Commission, carry on the spirit of the party's 20th Congress to ensure that the spirit of the party's 20th Congress take root in the PLA. Xi Jinping stressed that presently, the changes in the world that are unprecedented in a century have accelerated. The instability and uncertainty of China's national security have increased. Our task of military struggles is challenging and heavy. The entire PLA should implement the new eras meaning Xi Jinping's era, the new era's strong military thinking, implement the new era's military strategy, adhering to the one and only standard, quote unquote, combat effectiveness. The PLA should devote all energy to focusing on fighting battles. All the work should be devoted to fighting battles. Speed up to improve the ability to win wars and resolutely defend national sovereignty, security, development interests, so as to complete the task entrusted to us by the party and the people. Xi Jinping pointed out that the Joint Command Center is the mainstay of the party's Central Committee and the Military Commission, with an important status and great responsibility. People in the center should bear in mind the mission and responsibility, enhance the research and analysis of national security challenges, improve the ability to face realistic military struggles, reinforce command operation practice and innovation, and strive to build an absolute loyal, good at strategy, efficient, daring, and winning military command institution to help comprehensively improve training and preparation for war and fulfill our military missions. All right. Okay. So I just finished reading that. So that's the video. Let me go back to the slides. So what are the takeaways, right? So some highlights of what he said. First, he ordered the Chinese military to prepare for war, and it's very clear. He said we should devote all of our energies to focus on fighting battles or war, right? You could translate fighting battles as war. All the work should be devoted to fighting battles. So that's very clear. And the second thing he highlighted is he said that China's national security faces increased instability and uncertainty due to fast changing geopolitics that's unprecedented in 100 years. And third, he acknowledged that the PLA's task is challenging and tremendous, and his military has many areas of improvement. So here comes my analysis. So what is he trying to accomplish through this event and speech, right? It's a 2-day event. The first day is the large-scale military incursion over the Taiwan waters, and the second day is his visit, right? This visit. And you've seen the official news report. It's CCTV's news report. Let me just share my slides again. Here we go. This is actually the picture. Let me remove this. Sorry. This is the picture. This is the building. I just took a screenshot of that video. This is the command center from the outside. And this is actually the command center from the inside. And if you look at the time, it's 4:09 in the afternoon, and the news report said he arrived around 4 o'clock. So I don't know if this picture was taken before he arrived or they staged this picture. But there's a guy who's sat. If you look at to the right, there's a guy who sat there in the commander's table and chair. I have a feeling that this photo was taken without him. It was just probably a PR photo that they took. But this is the inside view of the command center based on that news clip. All right. Here, yeah, I show this picture prematurely. So some people say that, let me go back. Some people say that Xi Jinping is sending a strong signal that he's preparing for a war. I think he may be preparing, but he may not be starting the war soon, because if he really wanted to start a war now, he wouldn't be broadcasting like that. The fact that it took place on the election day in the US, I think it's very interesting. It happened the day after the largest incursion of the PLA warplanes, right, into the Taiwan airspace, and also happened less than a week from his meeting with Joe Biden at the G20 summit. And that tells me that he intends to send a message to Joe Biden. It's sort of like a warning, right? Don't meddle with me in Taiwan, in preparation of their upcoming meeting. And this is a typical CCP scare tactic to dominate a negotiation or a meeting or a bargaining session. And this strategy came from Mao Zedong's, it's a strategy Mao Zedong established in the 1940s, and this was his original quote. He made a speech on March 11th, 1940, and this is what he said. He said, "If you seek unity through fighting, unity survives. If you seek unity through concessions, unity dies." It's counterintuitive, but what he's saying is, in order to achieve unity or consensus, you have to fight first. If you make too much concessions or too many concessions, then you won't reach consensus. You won't get what you want. And this is the theoretic basis for the CCP's wolf warrior strategy. I made a video about this in the Sino-European relations, and the video will come out this Saturday, and I'll explain this theory more in detail. You should check it out then. But basically, Xi Jinping has put out this 2-day show in anticipation for his meeting with Joe Biden in Bali, to show both his domestic audience and the Americans that he's acting tough. And this is exactly the fighting part that preludes. That's the prelude to reaching consensus, right? According to Mao's theory. Another reason. So that's what we said, is only his, the reason on the foreign relations side, right? Now there's a domestic reason, and this reason is I think is very important. It's the reason behind this strong war rhetoric is that Xi Jinping needs to show some muscles to give his newly promoted Central Military Commission members the much needed enforcement. And here is the picture taken during the 20th Party Congress when he came out with his new, the first two guys that followed him are his two vice chairmen. And then I see, I think that some of the retiring military commission members are also in this photo. They're coming, like the Xu Qiliang, the guy in the blue uniform, who's from the Air Force, is also here, and also the outgoing defense minister Wei Fenghe is following him, is also here. So I think this could be the picture that combined both the outgoing and incoming military commission members. But look how Xi Jinping didn't wear a suit, a Western suit. He's wearing a Mao uniform for this occasion. So there has been reports that his selection of vice chairman of the military commissions have caused some resentment and resistance among PLA officers. So here's one article. It's in Chinese. You can check it out. Those of you who read Chinese or who have staff who read Chinese can check it out. But he broke CCP's protocols in selecting his two vice chairmen, the two guys who followed him immediately. First, he broke the age rule and kept the 72-year-old Zhang Youxia, the man who walked right behind Xi Jinping, as the vice chairman, because Zhang is his most trusted general in the military, in the Chinese military, and they're like buddies. Their fathers fought in the war together. So Zhang, although he's 72 years old and past the retiring age, but Xi Jinping kept him. So that's the rule he broke. And then the other protocol he broke is the promotion of He Weidong, the second man who followed him, right? The man who was after Zhang Youxia. And this perhaps is the most problematic for him within the PLA, because He Weidong was promoted faster than a rocket, as people say. All right, so we say here's the article, and let's talk about this guy, He Weidong. He was the officer responsible for the military drill that the PLA pulled during Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan. People believe that his fast-track promotion was a sign that war with Taiwan is on Xi Jinping's agenda. But some people pointed out that this guy, He Weidong, was not even a delegate to the party Congress. And this is very odd. So what that means is he wasn't selected as one of the, 2,300, somewhere around 2,300 party delegates attending the conference. And basically all the high-ranking government officials, all the, the major officials in military or in civilian jobs, all went to this party conference, and also, at the provincial and local level. So how could a vice chairman of the military didn't even make it to the party's Congress as one of the 2,300 party delegates, right? That's very odd. And then besides, he was not a member of the CCP's 19th Central Committee, meaning that he wasn't, before this promotion, he wasn't one of the top, one of the 400 people that make up the top leadership body, right? So now he has been promoted, like, on the fast track. He's now one of the Politburo members, one of the top 25 people, and he's also the one of the two vice chairmen in the military commission right under Xi Jinping. So it's jaw-dropping to many people. And the reason is he, again, just like Zhang Youxia, he and Xi Jinping went way back. So I thought that you might enjoy this picture. Can you guess who this guy is in the picture? Yes, this is Xi Jinping from 1997 in Fujian, as he was checking on a rocket, or I don't know, some kind of weaponry. Anyways, so Xi Jinping worked in Fujian for 17 years between 1985 and 2002. During that time, in addition to his party leadership role, he also served in several in several roles in a military capacity. For example, as the first secretary of the party committee of Fuzhou Military Sub-District, as the director of the Fujian Provincial Defense Mobilization Committee, deputy director of the Nanjing Military Region Defense Mobilization Committee. And one of the military units he dealt with the most was the 31st Army Group, which is part of the Nanjing Military Region and is based in Xiamen, Fujian. So when Xi Jinping was in Fujian, he helped the 31st Army raise money and he helped them settle families of the servicemen. So this is in the year 2000, Xi Jinping with some of the servicemen in Fujian. Excuse me. And so he had a very close relationship with them. After he became the fifth leader, CCP leader, here's another picture from the year 2000. So he inspected the 31st Army for the 14th time in 2014. And that just shows you how much he cared about this 31st Army. So many people say this 31st Army is regarded as Xi Jinping's his own troop. So officers who came from the 31st Army Group have received special attention from Xi Jinping and have been widely promoted, including He Weidong, the man that we said who was on a fast track, right, for promotion. He Weidong, he is not only from the 31st Army Group, he is also from the Fujian province, so he's a local, and he served as the chief of staff in the 31st Group Army. So his fast promotion is presumably attributable to his close relationship with Xi Jinping from their time in Fujian. But here's a question again. So if he's so close with Xi Jinping, how come he wasn't even a delegate at the party's Congress, right? Again, just like the CCP, there are different factions within the PLA, and some officers don't see eye to eye with Xi Jinping. And most of this is hidden from the outside world because we can't really tell what's going on. But things have gone so badly before the party Congress that we can't even tell from the outside world. So here's another picture of He Weidong. Before the party Congress, the PLA released a number of unusual signals. On October 7th, here it is, the Communist Party's military website and the website of its Ministry of National Defense published an article titled, here's the article, Adhering to the Fundamental Change in the Way the Military is Governed. And this article explicitly suggests that military should not be governed by individual relations, quote unquote individual relations. This article rejects Xi Jinping's style of promoting his loyalists without mentioning any names, but the message is very clear. And the author even called for the PLA to get rid of the three practices, and they are individuals' words playing a bigger role than rules, emotional bonds are bigger than rules, and power playing a bigger role than rules. So the author is asking the Chinese military to get rid of those practices. And this is a very bold move within the Chinese PLA, right? Because you're directly saying something against what your military commander is doing. And then this is not over yet. And then 2 days later, on the 9th, the military website, you can see it says Chinese military website, and also it's the National Defense Ministry website, right? On October 9th, it's a Sunday. And this article, the title is Responding to the What Ifs with All-Round Preparation. But the article quoted Deng Xiaoping and Mao Zedong throughout, but did not mention Xi Jinping, not even once. And again, this is very, very unusual. Chinese media, state media, always quote the current leader more than past leaders. And it's like by default, you mention, especially a military article, a military website, you always first acknowledge your current leader. So this again is very unusual. And when those two articles came out, some China observers immediately smelled something. They said something is going on internally, and the timing of it, it's exactly 1 week before before the party congress, because the party congress started on the 16th, and this is what, the 7th and then the 9th. So it's a week before that. And then, of course, Xi Jinping's allies within the military came out with strong speeches that endorse Xi Jinping. So you kind of see a mixed signals coming from the PLA, right? One side, one voice questioning the leader's practice, and the other voice kind of endorses the leaders. So either the internal battle is very bad, that we hear two voices, and the other possibility is the Chinese military sometimes are nervous about political struggle because they don't want to be perceived that they are very close with the outgoing political leader. Because when the new leader comes on board, he's going to purge all the loyalists of his predecessor. So the military officers may be nervous about any potential political power change at the top, right, at the party congress. So they are trying to kind of send mixed signals, to send both messages, just in case somebody else can come into power, and so that they are safe, so they're not being perceived as a diehard Xi Jinping loyalists. And maybe that's the reason why they have mixed signals. So that's one possibilities. But now, with He Weidong, the guy in question, being promoted so fast, and who's not even the party congress, so some China observers believe that there must have been a lot of resistance for his promotion. Because if you look at the timing, when Xi Jinping, because He Weidong was promoted from, his previous post was the commander of the Eastern Military Theater, right? So he left that post to move to the Central Military Commission. So when Xi Jinping moved him, it might be the time when the delegates were being nominated, reviewed, and approved. So the party delegates theoretically were being nominated and then reviewed and approved, and then eventually voted on. So this is like Chinese the CCP's democratic process. So you get approvals all done before you vote, before you go for a vote. I mean, that just tells you how they're selected. So somehow people believe that Wei was not on the list because he was his job was in the process of transitioning, and with Xi Jinping, with the rank of his position, and being a close ally to Xi Jinping can absolutely add his name to the party delegates. But why he didn't? So people say the timing, because the week before. Something must have happened the week before the party congress that Xi Jinping didn't even bother, or couldn't even add his vice chairman of military commission to the party congress the week before, because the timing coincided with the two articles that were sending very strong signals. So I think that theory has some weight. It makes sense. It kind of explains why we see these very strongly, very ambitious kind of dangerously worded articles being published on Chinese military website a week before the party congress, and when his vice chairman is not even part of the delegates. So these unusual moves tell us that, here's the guy again, these unusual moves tell us that there are various factions within the PLA, and not all of them are loyal to Xi Jinping. And when Xi Jinping promoted only people he's familiar with, it made other factions feel left out. So even though this guy, He Weidong, was promoted on a fast track, experts say that whether he has the credibility and respect to command the PLA is still questionable. Xi Jinping promoted him to be in charge of military actions against Taiwan. But what if other generals really don't listen to him or don't respect him that much? And therefore, Xi Jinping signed up for his fourth title by becoming the commander-in-chief, by becoming the commander in charge of the PLA's Joint Operations Command Center. And that explains why he becomes the first guy that holds all four titles, right? And people believe that he is doing that to be this guy, He Weidong's enforcement. All right, so with all that said, I think it will be interesting to see what happens next Monday when Xi Jinping meets with Joe Biden in Bali. Meanwhile, we should keep an eye on the development of the PLA's new leadership and their actions and what happens across the Taiwan Strait. All right, so I finished my presentation, and let's see. What questions do I have from people? Wow, okay. Sorry, let me see. Let me take a look at the super questions, super chats. First, let me see. Thank you. From Venkat. Will Xi Jinping follow Mao by invading India? I did. If you joined my live streaming this week, Tuesday, I discussed similarity between what Xi Jinping would do, right? I talked about the relationship between, I talked about the danger if Xi Jinping ends the zero COVID policy. And I draw a comparison to the war that Mao launched in 1962 against India. I think there's some lessons we should learn from history, and there's certainly similarities, but I can't really say if he will launch war against India right now, because that's a big question. But I think a lot of things that he does, he is taking cues from Mao. He is learning a lot of the things that Mao Zedong did, and there's definitely similarities between the geopolitical background when the Sino-Indian War took place in 1962, because it was during the Cuban Missile Crisis. So there are a lot of similarities. I discussed that. I recommend you watch the last live stream on Tuesday when I talk about when Xi Jinping will end the zero COVID. But thank you for the question. All right, let me see. Okay, from Richard W. Thank you for another great show. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I tried. All right, let me see. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Let me see. Is Wolf Warrior still a strategy? It is. It is. The video I'm going to release on Saturday talks about Sino-European relations, right? In the aftermath of the German chancellor's visit to China, and China is using that strategy to its advantage, and I think to some extent it's working. Yeah, that video, it really explains that. And take a look at what happened in Manchester, the behavior of the Chinese consul general, right? When he beat up the protester of the Hong Kong, what's his name, Bob Chan. Um, it's outrageous from the Western diplomacy's perspective. How could a diplomat do that? But to CCP, it's part of their strategy. Some people think that it's their bad behavior, it's their bad training. I don't think so. They're totally capable of putting on a good manner. It's intentional. It's part of their strategy. Do you think Xi Jinping is as crazy, as disconnected as Putin? I don't think he's crazy. He follows his own logic. His logic is very different from ours. Yeah, but his logic is very different. But I think in order to the world, I think I know these people don't like Xi Jinping or Putin, think that they are causing great harm to the world. But I think in order to figure out how to deal with them, we cannot be emotional. And sometimes people just you need to understand their logic, their thinking. You have to remain rational so that you can understand where they're coming from. It's very easy just to say, oh, they're crazy, but you still need to remain rational when you deal with a lunatic, right? All right, question from Kelly Dawn. Great to see you live. Okay, I'm prepared tonight. Would you shut down this wonderful labor all of you have created for 2 minutes? All right. Okay. All right, good. I wish 2 million people, I hope 2 million people are watching, but I'm getting there. Thank you. All right. Well, from Dave M, thank you for the donation. Just a comment. He Weidong's uniform has a lot of service bars, but they look like the same 3 bars in multiples. China hasn't been in a war since Vietnam. I wonder, how do they get so many ribbons? Thanks for the chat. Yeah, Xi Jinping, I think the Chinese leaders like to promote their generals, I mean, it's part of their, what do you think they can motivate their people, right? I don't think people really want to have a war. How do you motivate them? Promotion and money. So, yeah. There was a video made by a former Chinese military officer who talked about how, there's a price that you pay, a monetary price, with real value that you pay for every military rank. So if you want to be a major general, this is how much you pay. So yeah, so it's so you wonder how they get all these ribbons. It's a question of how much money they paid, right? Okay, from Oscar Mike. Great show as always. Your analysis on Tesla is absolutely amazing. What do you see happening with Tesla Shanghai in 2, 5, and 10 years? I'm not particularly following Tesla right now because I think Tesla is in the same position as like Foxconn, right? And also other automakers in China. But I'm watching what the CCP is doing with its economic policies. I think CCP right now is softening its policies towards foreign companies, but tightening its domestic policies against its private sector. So it's put on this it's a two-phase approach, right? One phase is a good face towards foreign investors, multinational companies, with open arms to say, come to China, we welcome you, come invest in us. Chinese market is the biggest, it's the most promising. We'll work with you, we'll collaborate with you, we'll offer mRNA vaccine to you now. You could now have German vaccines. So it's doing that. But on the other hand, it's really tightening its grip on the domestic private sectors. I think the Chinese private businesses and Chinese citizens are having a tougher and tougher time. Yeah, but that's what it's doing. But where would this lead to China in a year or two? It's too early to tell. But I'm keeping my eyes on that. All right. Yeah, I didn't see from Kelly Don. I didn't see the story of the Thai student publisher with a Chinese businessman tried to pay. No, I did not know what it was. Sorry. I guess I'm too focused on my work. All right. Is that all? Is that all the questions I get from tonight? Let me see. Let me see. Do I have another question? Is Wei Dong not in charge of Eastern Command sector next to Taiwan? No, he's not. There's a somebody. Remember there was a rumor about there was a military coup d'état because there was one guy who's suspicious of a military coup. There was like the rumor was all over the place, and but the real reason was he was put in a position to replace He Weidong. There was somebody else that Xi Jinping put in to be the commander of the Eastern Theater. So yeah, I think I talked about that a while ago. All right, okay, let's see. All right. Is Neil, Xiaopeng, and Li will they survive? Their stock prices soared recently as a result of the rumor that Xi Jinping is going to end zero COVID. So their stock prices went up tremendously. So how do Chinese get money out of the country? What is the best way? Oh, that's a question a lot of people try to figure out. I'm not very good at that. All right. From Dieter Andrew, have Louis Hand free China on? I don't know who Louis Hand is. Sorry. All right. Okay. Every country, silent murmur, every country has the same rhetoric and circumstances because they want to control everyone's life. During the pandemic, it certainly feels that way, doesn't it? Right? Regardless what country you live in, whether in North America, Europe, or China, sometimes it does feel that way. Our life has been controlled one way or another. But I think the degree is different. Nobody wants to live in China because it controls every aspect of people's life. All right. Okay, so I thank everyone for your participation. That's my presentation for tonight. I hope it's helpful, and I'll see you next week. Okay, maybe next week we'll talk about Xi Jinping's meeting with Joe Biden. It should be interesting. All right, stay well, and I'll see you next time. From Walter Robinson, thank you for the stream. Can you give us insight on how the coming wave of unemployment is going to affect Xi's effectiveness in power? Sure, I will address that sometime next week. All right. from Brian and Angela. Could the documents Hu Jintao seemed to want to view have potentially contained material regarding a potential invasion of Taiwan? I don't think so, because the document he was holding on looks like the standard document that was given to the party delegates. I don't think it's a secret document. It's the document that everybody has. And then afterwards, what I have seen other people discussing, it's more than likely it's the name list that's missing Hu Chunhua, right? His appointed heir for Xi Jinping. How Hu Chunhua didn't make it to the Politburo. The 25 Politburo is reduced to 24. Some people saying that it was the name list that got him upset or unhappy, or he was trying to get more information. All right, everyone. Thank you very much. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.